Welcome back, everybody, to Trade Talk on the Late Night Collectors community. I'm your host, Nico, and joined with me today is our returning guest, actually, from last episode, Peter. What's going on, man?
What's going on, everybody? How you doing?
Our best comic book collector in the city, apparently. He's
That's right. That's right.
and
I'm
speaking
the
of
king.
speaking of comic books that Peter recently picked up, but it's I have it right now. I have for him.
That's right. Yeah.
Gonna
He's
show the
flaunting it.
Punisher
He's trying
War.
to tease me.
Yeah, the Punisher War Machine issue with this fantastic banger of a cover that we got here. But that was
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm holding it.
Hopefully, to cash in on some of the hype, a little speculation. We know how much Neeks loves that.
That's right. But yeah, no, I got that for Peter and just holding on to it for him for now, holding it hostage. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but also just to tease maybe an upcoming episode as well here at the top of the show. These are the two trade paperbacks, guys, that collect the Punisher War Machine storyline that came out a few years back and written by Matt Rosenberg. And there's been rumors recently that this is going to be the storyline that they're going to be introducing in the new Return of the Punisher, I guess, in like a show or maybe even film. I don't know what route they're going. I think it's going to be for shows on Netflix.
I think it's going to be both, right? It's definitely going to be shows, but he might make an appearance. I think if they go this War Machine gimmick, he can definitely make appearances in the movies, right?
Yeah, because Daredevil has already made an appearance now in the shows on Disney.
Yeah, he's banging Hulk and shit and doing his thing.
There's been confirmation that like now John Bernthal apparently has started like working out and training to come back as the Punisher. I guess the
Yeah.
last time that season came out was like 4 years ago or something. I think I had
It
seen
was
in
a while ago. Yeah, it was a while ago.
and all the other shows that they've started over since Disney has acquired them and the shows have stopped being on Netflix hasn't really featured the Punisher, right? So I think there's rumors now, like in the news, that that's what they're going to be basing the storyline on is the Punisher War Machine arc. So these trade paperbacks are becoming harder and harder to find out there, guys. So if you do want to pick up, I hope they come out with a new collection of it if that does happen with the show. But if you're looking to read that, definitely find that out there. You're gonna might have to go looking for them because they're gonna be out of print. I think one of them's out of print. It took me a while to find both of them. So yeah, so definitely track those down. But little tease for you guys there. We might talk about that in a future episode here. We're enjoying some of these Punisher stories lately. And
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan of Punisher. He's been one of my favorites. So every
absolutely.
chance I get to read a news story or something I haven't seen before, I'm always excited.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, same here. I'm a big fan of the Punisher. And yeah, and as I mentioned, before the show we were chatting, since the Capitol stuff happened a couple of years ago, because some of the people were donning the shirts of the Punisher logo. Marvel essentially had stopped printing any collections of the Punisher. They didn't have a Punisher ongoing series really until this past year for the last couple of years. So with this news of the show, with John Bernthal involved, I think it's for time for them to bring him back, like as we know him as this character, because you know what I mean. It's giving too much power to that shit. If you're just not going to actually,
Yeah,
just going to
yeah.
ruin this great character for everyone as a result of that. And there
Well,
is,
it's really got nothing to do with it, in a sense. Anyone could wear anything. The Captain America symbol has been used, and his outfit and whatever. So again, it's however you want to take it. What are
that
they? The character? It's just a story. It's just stories about a character. It has nothing to do with what's actually happening in the world. Can't use anything in a movie or video game or whatever. It's all just made up stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I mean. I think they're just giving it too much power by not like embracing the fact that, like, you know what I mean. Anybody
Well,
can.
it's a symbol used by like the special forces and stuff. So then I like guess a lot of these ex-military or maybe even people that want to be military, those kind of guys, they wear that thinking they're badasses and shit, right? And then yeah, and then again it gets kind of misconstrued.
I think just that they were worried about, I guess, optics of it because it's fucking Disney. I guess not that Disney hasn't done.
Yeah, I mean it's gay people only for Disney. You know my take on that. You were waiting for me to say something, so
No, that's not where I was veering towards.
you knew that's where I was going though. But yeah, it's whatever. Oh fuck, yeah, the Punisher, but again, whatever.
But
I don't even want to go there.
no, but what I was gonna say is, yeah, no, I'm hoping that he comes back like as we know him, because the ongoing series that's been out right now has been really good. But again, they changed the symbol up. They're trying to take it.
Well, those movies, right? Like that first movie with John Travolta and shit, they were good, and then that other one was pretty good. I think it's Warzone, like more graphic and shit. But John Bernthal, I mean, he's been amazing as a Punisher. Like the first toast the show and whatever, everything about it, his backstory, the Afghanistan. He was a ranger. I love all that shit. Right?
Yeah,
They did a really good job with it.
his intensity is like unmatched. I mean, I think we've seen that early on in his Walking Dead stuff, even, right? Like, so like,
Yeah. No, there's that episode. It's like whatever Kandahar or something. It's called, and he's there, and he literally kills like everybody. It's fucking insane. Like the why it's like the longest fight, like battle fight scene I've ever seen. It's like the entire episode. He's walking around stabbing people in the face and fucking. Or there's the one scene where he's in the jail. He's in that hallway, and
yes,
he fights all the guards and shit. He again fights like 7 guys, right?
that was the famous hallway shtick that they did through every Marvel Netflix show after Daredevil did it,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, yeah,
Fight where they just came through the hallway and like kicked 20 people's asses, right? And he's just brutally
yeah, yeah.
everybody. I know it's pretty awesome. That was great, man. Like that
Because
show.
I even watch a lot of those videos where it's like, oh, a knife expert will break down John Wick, or a gun expert will break down John Wick movies. And I did watch one where it was a knife expert, and they broke down that scene in The Punisher, and they said, he must have trained and did a good job because a lot of the shit he did is correct or whatever, right? So it even shows you how he said he's starting to train now. He
Yeah.
doesn't just put the shirt on and swing a gun around, right? He really lives that character.
Yeah, and from what I understand, John Bernthal also has a troubled past as well. Like he went to prison. He came out of prison when he did that Walking Dead show, right? Like that was kind of
That's
like
right. That's right.
did a small stint there, and he does know a lot of vets and stuff, like as you mentioned on that Real Ones. Like he gets people on there and talks with them. So yeah, no, you could tell like, and the character means a lot to him too, like playing that character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and yeah, he's an intense actor, that guy. So like I think it's in the right hands with him, and I'm happy to hear that they've announced that he is going to be returning as the Punisher. And yeah, hopefully if they do this War Machine stuff, it's good because I would love to see what they do with it. As long as they
Oh
don't
fuck yeah! Have him swinging around fighting Kingpin or something, right? How awesome would that be? That guy that plays Kingpin, right, in the show, he's sick too.
into D'Onofrio, who like basically
That's right.
threatened to get back into there and like into the shows, man. Yeah, he's very serious about that character as well. Like he's made.
Yeah, he was a really good Kingpin, man.
Yes, yeah, no, that's barely like he's a pretty serious guy, like on the set too. That guy, that's what I've heard. Like
Like if they could do something with Kingpin, Spider Man, Daredevil, Punisher with the fucking this War Machine
yes,
shit, that'd be insane, bro.
yep, yeah,
Fucking holograms of Iron Man and shit. Like flashbacks. Tom Holland's crying. Oh my god, it'd be insane, man.
yeah. So here's hoping. I mean, yeah. So
Oh
here's
man, that's a movie right there. Slap that together, fucking $2 billion, no problem.
But I guess what I failed to mention as of yet, there's so much good conversation already, is the fact that we're here to talk about Punisher Born.
Oh, this thing.
Yeah, this thing right here. Yeah, which is the Garth Ennis written story, which is kind of like an origin of sorts of Punisher back in Vietnam. Frank Castle prior to him becoming, the Punisher as we know him, essentially. And it's a 4-issue series that's collected, like Peter showed you. You can find the trade paperback. It's also collected in the omnibuses and the hardcover. It has a hardcover as well of it, I believe, out there. But yeah, it's a really good story. So I mentioned to Peter, maybe we should check it out because he had yet to read it. And yeah, I read it, I think back, years ago now, in like the omnibus, like the collection of the Garth Ennis Max comics. Like he wrote a whole series of Punisher Max comics, and there was a couple of miniseries that he did, like the Barracuda one and this one, and that kind of were done around the same time as well, that they basically put in those collections. So yeah, no, it's a really good story, and it's actually drawn by artist Derek Robertson, who has famously co-created The Boys with Garth Ennis. He was the artist that
Okay.
the artist that drew this story was actually the co-creator and artist for the first, like, I don't know, like most of the series of The Boys. He stopped being
Garth Ennis does the voice too, yeah?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, that makes sense.
Garth Ennis hates superheroes, but he works in the comic medium. So he's always found ways to, either by talking shit about superheroes or basically doing characters like the Punisher.
Yeah, he does lots of war shit.
Yeah, to kind of like still put out books, and like, he did things for Vertigo, like Preacher, that one that was a show that was not, I don't think that successful, but that was a story that Garth Ennis wrote. So stuff like that. Like he does have definitely a dark sense of humor, but he's obsessed with the war. Like he reads like so many things about like the war. Like he's very knowledgeable when it comes to this thing. And like I said, he's done like 30 different series, like mini series and stuff of like different wars,
Yeah.
everything like from modern wars to World War I, World War II. Like he's done it all in terms of his war comics, right? So like the Punisher obviously is an easy like sell for him to have, right? And he's written like I probably at this point almost 100 comics, I would say, on the Punisher for Marvel, like throughout the different series that he's done with them. So yeah, so it's really, really good. Two other ones I'll mention that before we get into it, though, that you guys should check out there, and even Peter, if you can track them down, check out. He did another mini series that's similar to this, which he references. Actually, this is the first one that came out, but he references this whole thing about how they just called them the platoon because they're the only fucking platoon that's actually out there in Vietnam in this thing. There is a mini series called The Platoon where he revisits him in Nam. And it's just called The Platoon, Punisher the Platoon. And it's basically, again, more stories that happened to them during this time frame in Vietnam, him and his men. And also another one here, I'll bring it up on the tablet here because I was trying to look it up earlier, called Punisher Soviet, which is actually him, like a Russian story.
He's a Ruski.
Yeah, he actually has a Ruski, that's guy that behind him there, that actually he like a comrade that he makes friends with there. But then I think they go up against other Russians or something like that. So it's if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while. It came out a couple years ago. Like I said, probably 2-3 years ago when they were still doing like Punisher comics before they took a break. He came out with that one, and he apparently has another one on the horizon too. They've been teasing that's going to be coming out probably with the release of the show, I'm guessing, if they time it right. So yeah, so he's still doing Punisher stuff. He also, the Nick Fury books are good. So yeah, if anybody likes that kind of stuff, he really they're not all like Punisher Born that we're going to be talking about here today. But this one being focused on the Vietnam War and stuff, it's really interesting because like it's been done before, but not because this is the Marvel Max line. It's hardcore violence, swearing. They're able to actually talk, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, like with adult language and themes and everything else, right? So we'll get into it here. There's some pretty brutal stuff in this, but real. I mean, it's very realistic in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem. I mean, like it's a comic, and some stuff is definitely far fetched, but it doesn't seem that far fetched either. At the same time, you know what I mean? They do a good job of keeping it realistic.
Right. All right, so yeah, let's get into it here. So Punisher Born #1. So first off, though, like I said, I read it a while ago. You read it for the first time. P, did you enjoy this overall?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. From start to finish, I did. Again, being a fan of military and history and the Punisher as a character kind of wraps all of my favorite things up in one. Any of the Punisher series, for that matter, because especially these Garth Ennis ones, they always talk about his past and stuff. So yeah, no, from start to finish, I did enjoy this one.
Just to jump ahead, I will get your thoughts at the end, but I'm interested what you thought about the ending of this one, though. It was kind of an interesting, depending how you interpreted it, it's kind of an interesting end that I quite frankly forgot about before, until we reread this for the show. So yeah, we'll get into that. And if you guys do,
I have some questions about that too. So yeah, we'll get to that. Okay, sure, but.
If you guys like this too, you can also go back in the feed. We haven't done Trade Talk that regularly, but me and Peter, the last time we did this, we actually talked about the Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin hardcover that came out. And hopefully, at the end of this year, I think there's going to be another hardcover coming out collecting the Lost Years series that's out right now. Hopefully you get to talk about that one. And yeah, that was a really good conversation too. So if you're into Ninja Turtles, definitely go back and check that out. That's also kind of more of a darker story, kind of set more in the future setting of the Turtles, and with a new video game that's going to be coming out soon.
Oh my, that's going to be in. Well, again, hopefully it's done right, but it seems and sounds like so far so good, you know?
Yeah. So anyways, Punisher Born. Okay, so this is a forest.
Yeah.
Enough of me talking. Okay, so it opens up with Firebase Valley Forge, 7 miles from the Cambodian border, October 1971. And a plane, is coming in hot there that gets shot down. And you see the soldiers here kind of betting on whether or not, he was going to make it, like, in before getting shot. They're kind of just killing time and placing bets on whether, and the plane does eventually get hit and actually goes down, and they all, were scattering here. So kind of an interesting open, right? And And then we cut over to us following we were following the events in this book for the most part through the eyes and inner monologue of a soldier named Stevie Goodwin, who has 39 days to go until he ships home. So he's counting the days.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So and this is here you see Frank Castle going with his platoon through the forest here. And
yeah, just doing patrols. It's kind of near the end of the Vietnam War.
That's
So that's,
right.
I think, a lot of these guys have, seen a lot of war, a lot of death. That's why they're, the plane full of their own men going down. They're kind of betting on it and laughing because they've just seen it all, at this point, kind of fed up. And it
Right.
seems like, yeah, maybe this camp they're at definitely just has a darker tone to it in general, right?
And at this point, they've all been but abandoned, and they're not really getting the proper support. And Frank is the only one with his head still in the game, really, out of all these guys at this point in time, because he is Frank Castle, and he's like, driven by this shit, right? Like he's really,
Yeah, he loves it. He loves it.
so like that he knows he's good at it. It's his purpose. So yeah, he's very like a diligent kind of like at this point in time. I think they get into it later, but they mention how none of his guys in his patrol, like had he's led since he's joined 6 months ago, have been killed in action. None of them. Like so, like everybody,
Yeah.
like so, like the Stevie Goodwin guy, Goodwin, let's just call him there. He kind of is already describing with 39 days to go, like he knows that he's gonna make it because he's with this guy. Like you know what I mean?
That's
Like
right. Yeah. Yeah.
it's like Frank Castle, thank God for him. Like this guy is just a machine, like essentially, right? Like the way he's
That's right.
out there.
I guess the way he leads, right? He's always got the drop on everyone.
And I guess this is before they kind of pulled out, and there was a lot of political reasoning type shit going on at this time too, with the I guess what's going on with the states, and if I'm not mistaken, like isn't it viewed by some that because of the casualties that were lost during Vietnam, that they kind of lost, like they didn't lose, but it looked like they did in some regards, like you know what I mean? They didn't
Well, they
lose.
did. Yeah, they did lose a lot of men for sure.
Out. They pulled out
But they
essentially.
killed a lot of Vietnamese too. Like they tripled the amount of Viet.
Yeah, like I don't.
So it all depends on how you look at it. But yeah, they did take a lot of losses for fighting what was just kind of little men in the jungle and shit. That's how they talked about them.
Because I think like the couple of times that I've even seen Garth Ennis, and he kind of shows it from all different perspectives, even in this mini series for that matter. There's been other times where he's written certain stories where like again like I feel like this has been referenced as because of the amount of casualties that they took, like a lot of people thought this was one of the more senseless battles they kind of went into, right? Like why, like they're questioning why they're here during this mini series, well at least the one guy.
Yeah, the Vietnam War in general. They a lot was questioned with that one, right? The reasons why and stuff. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going with your expertise on this one when it comes to the more learned person, read up a person about this kind of stuff. You watch the documentaries and stuff like that, right? I know. So, but yeah, he's in his head with the mantra that he's not going to die here, and he's not going to basically continue with his second tour. And and he basically mentions like Captain Frank Castle. He's not, he doesn't want to become like him, who's in love with the war, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and and then he's the first officer the Marines ever had, with the dedication to his men and the fact that since like I said, he arrived 6 months ago, no one has died in his platoon there, and his first tour was in '68. Then it says the Brass and Da Nang detected promise in him, and special forces recruited him. His second tour, mostly a mystery. Apparently, there was like talk of wet work in Cambodia and black ops and all these other crazy stories that they're referring to. But to everybody in like his group here, this platoon, like no one really knows anything about him past that. Like he's just a mystery to everybody, right? Like
Yeah, I think he likes it that way, right? He kind of keeps it that way too.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then they mentioned in this his third tour is right here. He was sent to Valley Forge with the war winding down, and basically his need for a war, dying with it. So he kind of goes to certain lengths, which we'll get into in this, like to kind of keep this war going, right? His own personal war in Vietnam. So yeah, they come up on some Viet Cong here and strategically take them out. And he, they, as you see here in the art,
sets the nice ambush.
Yeah. Some pretty awesome scenes, like the action.
Yeah, blowing the cows up and shit.
Yeah, yeah, the action scenes in this book and just like the violence, like Derek Robertson, the artist, does a really good job, I think, of depicting it. As good as you
Some
can.
of the art, yeah, is very nice.
Yeah. There's some facial type stuff that in here where some of the faces I felt were not drawn well in certain situations, but like I think like there's moments, I don't know if you found this in the art, but certain scenes, like even Frank Castle looked different than in other scenes, like his face kind of like in like I know
Yeah, maybe.
like some of the facial stuff going on, I felt like it's at times, right? But yeah, I mean, this is yeah, them just mowing through a bunch of guys that they come up on, they ambush them here, and then basically what was it got here?
Yeah, they planted a claymore or mine and with
Yeah,
the tripwire, blew these fucking guys up.
front towards enemy. Yeah, they show that in the art, and yeah, you see them getting blown up here. And basically then he goes and like makes his report here afterwards. And
Yeah, you see him. He's doing with the officer, right? Doing his report.
And this guy is like checked out completely. Like this guy is like and you could tell right from this first scene, like he's drinking every time you see him in every scene. He's always talking very negatively and like kind of is not very interested in what's happening around him. Frank thinks that he's delivering in this great news always about their progress, but he's kind of like in this scene, he's basically pushing the fact that like, listen, we need some resupply, like we need some more men. Like this is what's going on. Like I just seized hundreds of their weapons, like AKs and all this shit, and I set some booby traps on their weapons that I left, which I thought was really interesting that he said that. And like, so he's going through all this kind of stuff with them, right? And he said, and I destroyed the rest. And this guy's like, yeah, don't worry, I'm gonna put it in the report. Like he's just fucking completely done with this.
Right, what you said right there, Neeks, is a good example of facial structure. Look at the bottom picture of Frank Castle there, right? It doesn't look like him in any other pictures.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a little less detail.
Like that bottom left picture, right? He looks like a different guy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's certain scenes where it looks a little rushed, but then if you look at the top panel here, where Buddy's pouring the booze, like from his flask, like great stern face. That's what I mean. Like he has some great face, but it seems like he spent all his time on certain scenes that he knew was going to be important, and then other ones were less detailed or they didn't get it 100%. Some of the characterizations of these guys, right? So, but yeah, no,
kind of skipped through there, Neeks. Can you go back a page?
Yep.
Go back one page. Look, if you look in the box. Oh no, that's it. Okay, you must have skipped over one. There's a scene where they're scalping them after the ambush.
Oh yes, I didn't put every page up here. I just,
right. Yeah.
But yes, there was. You're right. Now, who was that? Just one of the other men, or was that the punter? Was that Frank that was scalping him? I couldn't tell.
I think that was just another guy in the unit, but much just a thing that they're doing is fucking scalping them, and so again, just like the savagery of their unit.
Yes.
Kind of just killing and doing whatever the hell they want, right?
I did notice that, and definitely worth mentioning because, like, even though it's not talked about, you see him in the background in the art of him doing it. He may be talking in that scene while he's doing it. I don't know if the guy's talking while he's doing it, or not. But like, yeah, it wasn't really focused on all that much, other than like it prominently put in the art. Absolutely, yeah. No, it was.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, this guy also lets him know that General Patton is stopping by for a surprise inspection in an hour, and basically he let Frank know, give him a tour of the base, please, because I'm sick. I have malaria again.
And, that's right. Yeah.
But he seems to me he's just getting hammered. But he basically tells him, "Yeah, I got malaria, and I'm sick. So you let him know, like I couldn't make it."
Yeah, right? You deal with this shit. I'm not going to deal with him.
So then Colonel Ottman is the guy that was sick with malaria. Yeah. So then he ends up meeting up with this General Patton who comes by. And he basically he talks to Frank after kind of inspecting the base, and he tells him that he's sick, and he basically calls it a disgrace. He's like, with the way things are looking here, everything's run down. Like,
the fences are poor. Yeah.
He's like, when I was walking around, none of your men saluted a senior officer, like none of them. Like, he's like, I was walking around, No one fucking paid me any mind. You just could tell like these guys are run down. This place is run down. He's just like, I'm gonna shut this base down essentially because he's like, the war's gonna end. And this is kind of where they get into the fact about the optics and the politics and everything else. And
That's right.
Frank is just like pushing on this fact. He's just like, you know what I mean? Like he's like, I'm doing the best with what I got. Like, you know what I mean? And this guy, he's just like, not hearing it. This fucking guy. He's like, listen, we're done. We're done here. I'm gonna close the base, right? And basically, he says, it's no. He basically mentions like no effort has been made to restore order, and basically due to the fact that they're undermanned by 50%, and the men that they do have are no good, short of equipment, and they need munitions. A resupply or a joke. That's what he says. I mean, those are all his reasonings as to why, like, they're basically having such a hard time here. By the grace of God and the fucking Frank Castle, basically, are the only reason that they're basically pushing through at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Taking out the enemy, like he makes that very clear, right? And this scene that kind of ends this issue. When I first read this, I felt it was kind of uncharacteristic of the Punisher, to be quite honest with you. But then,
to be quite frank,
yeah, I almost said it. Yeah, that's good, if pun intended. What did so basically he leads this guy up. He's about to leave, and he basically, I think he says he has to like use the bathroom or something. What is? Or no, he says come over.
No, he's like, oh, before you leave, you just have to have a look. Why we need to keep the base open?
That's
come up here and have a look.
That's right. So he makes him go up the stairs here, and where he ends up is at the start, basically on the sniper range. Like he ends up getting shot because he's standing out there where the sniper range is, and Frank leads him up there unsuspectedly and tells him, yeah, go up there on that ledge there and kind of take a look, and this is what I've been trying to tell you. I think this is going to make you change your mind about what's going on here. And he went up there and he gets shot.
There must have been a Vietnam, not a sniper range, but there must have been a Vietnam sniper watching over the camp, right? And they kind of knew that.
Oh, okay. Because I thought it was a sign up. It says danger, snipers ahead or something. I thought it was a
sniper at work, right? Dawn to dusk.
I thought it was a range for them or something like that. Okay, that makes more sense.
No. So there's just Vietnam snipers watching the camp. I think they're in a valley, so they're in some type of like pit. So they're surrounded by hills, which again, they mentioned that too. Another reason why they want to close it down, like it's a defensive nightmare. Right. So I think, they have that berm of dirt. It seems like he's walking up. Maybe this camp is kind of surrounded by some sort of whatever, and they just have snipers watching, right?
Okay, that makes more sense.
Heads to poke out. Oh yeah, for sure. Like camps like this would have been watched for sure.
That makes more sense. So because I thought it was just a range at first, and then I guess it's better in a sense because it was at least the enemy that took him out, but it still seemed fucked up of Frank to do just because.
You're right about that for sure. It is uncharacteristic of like a military guy, especially like a Frank Castle. He's always fighting for the good guy and not killing unnecessarily, right?
And if you go by a lot of the way he's been depicted when it even comes to the Marvel Universe stuff, like when it comes to people like Captain America, for example, he's always showed him the utmost respect, like because he's a military. Any person he comes across, even police, even the heroes, he always has gone out of his way not to hurt them if it can be helped in certain situations. But so that's why I thought this was a little uncharacteristic. But then I thought, maybe this is trying to illustrate the fact that nothing is stopping his war, though. Like he is so driven that actually will even overpower his decision not to have this man killed in this instance, right?
Yeah, this is just one step that needs to be taken. It's nothing, it's not even a big deal. It's just, like you said, to continue his war needs to happen.
Yeah, so I don't know how I feel about it because I feel kind of honestly of two minds on that one. Because when I read this the first time and then as it went on, I was just like, each issue, I think they really kind of try to illustrate something that the Punisher, when he becomes the Punisher, is kind of known for. Like, and I felt that this is something like maybe that's what they're trying to show you, that if anybody were to get in his way of him, of what he set out to plans to do, that he'll stop them. But it wasn't by his hand. So there's that, right? He didn't kill them. He let someone else do that, but he did.
That's right. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm still a little iffy on that, but it's interesting. It definitely was a cool scene. Like I liked how Like, you know, the first time I read this, I remember that really surprised me. I was like, oh, holy fuck.
Yeah.
He walks up to the top and he just sees brains get blown out. Right. I'm just like, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
and he sits there as you know, as basically like in his head about, you know, like, yeah, like he's, you know, nothing's gonna stop me, like kind of doing what I have to do here, essentially, right?
That's right.
So yeah, I know, chilling scene at the end for sure. Yeah. So yeah, good first issue. What else? Any other thoughts on this one or
No, again, we talked about it. I had that same feeling like you, like maybe it was a little uncharacteristic.
yeah,
But then when you get to the end of the book and kind of recap the whole thing, you can understand, like,
yeah, yeah,
So again, but yeah, very interesting scene. I liked, I kind of figured it was an enemy sniper. I liked that. Again, they make it seem with that, even the opening scene, that plane coming in and it gets shot down. And then their patrols, they come across the enemy. And then this general, he gets sniped at the top of the hill. Wherever this camp is, they're making it seem like the enemy is very close, right? This whole time, they're kind of giving you hints.
yeah.
Again, kind of leading up to the end.
Yeah, I would say so because it seems like whenever they go out of their like base, like where they're set up, even into like the forest, like it seems like the enemy's like right there. Like, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think they're just sitting there, right? And I guess the whole that's why he was saying to them like we need more reinforcements and shit because we're the ones that are pushing back and trying to like stop them from like gathering more Viet Cong there, like in that area. Like he's basically,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, what is it called? Like fighting against you know, uphill battle essentially, right?
That's
Like
right. Yeah.
okay, so yeah, this is issue 2 and I really love the covers on every issue as well. The way the progression goes from like
Yeah. Yeah.
to like there's just a skull at the end, like the emergence of what, you know, the symbolism of the Punisher and everything else, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought that was really interesting how like each issue infuriates a little bit more and more of these ones, right? So so yeah, we start this issue with a guy cooking up, doing some heroin, and as we know, with the war, a lot of them did come back as junkies, right, from Vietnam because you know, I guess the poppy seeds are right there, right? So there's a lot of
yeah. It was a big manufacturer of it, and then the soldiers were doing it. When you would go into the soldiers would get leave, you'd go into town and hookers and alcohol, and then a lot of drug use was going on, and
yeah,
then would come home with a lot of the soldiers. But so that's like a major unfortunate part of Vietnam War. A lot of them came home with
yeah.
like heroin fucking addictions and shit.
And I think this is like, I mean, if it wasn't heroin addiction, it was PTSD, which was like major, like if after this war, right? This is when they kind of really
Yeah.
started to really, I think, understand it more, even, right? I would say, right?
Well, definitely, more than World War II or Korea War at that time.
That's right. Yeah. So, and I mean, if you watch things like American Gangster and stuff like that, you saw like the guy that was out there was his brother that was selling. I think it was his brother that was selling.
It was his brother, bringing it home in the American caskets.
And that's kind of what's going on here in the sense that this little bunker that they have set up here, there's actually a guy in their base that is actually selling the drugs on the base for the people that are addicted to it, that are out there, that are fine or just trying to find some escape, I guess, from what's happening around them, right? And this guy,
Yeah.
you know, this black character Angel here, this soldier that we're introduced to in this scene, is struggling with it throughout this, you know, and then later on we learn like he is somebody that comes from like a ghetto, like kind of area. He mentions in his own kind of conversation to the other characters, like he doesn't come from, I mean, a good situation, and that's why a lot of these people enlisted at this time, right? So, but then they go out there and they become addicted to heroin, right? And they come back junkie.
Well, it was a draft too for Vietnam War, right?
Oh, right.
That's where a lot of the protesting and stuff, because it was a draft, and a lot of them didn't have a choice.
That's true. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, absolutely. So yeah, he starts with Angel cooking up here, and basically the guy that's like they're running the show with this little bunker with they're selling it. Like he's, you know, he's threatening about the situation because what's his name, Goodwin, comes and tries to collect him because he's trying to keep him clean because Frank will fucking freak if he can't shoot a gun straight. Like he does not want them doing drugs because they're no good to him if that's the case. Like, and Angel's one of his like, main dudes in the platoon. And like so he basically he sees him, the guy who's selling the drugs, and backs down because at first he takes out a blade and he's gonna fucking cut him or Goodwin who comes to collect him because
That's right.
there was the money for the heroin he was just about to shoot up, right? So yeah, he kind of backs down when he sees Frank come there though, and he kind of, I don't know if it is here or yeah, I think he basically lets them know, like basically Goodwin becomes the person who has to watch over him essentially. I think it's later on.
That's right.
Goodwin becomes the guy that has to try to keep him clean, which is like an impossible task in and of itself, right? And the person that you have to speak to if you don't do this is Frank Castle, right? So it's just like,
yeah,
that is not a good to be in, right? They're already down there fighting for their lives, and it's just like you got to take care of this guy too now, right? So, yeah, he says to keep him that way. Asks if he's sober, and yeah, if he's a junkie, he can't shoot straight, right? So. And this is kind of where you start to get some more details on the platoon. It kind of gets into like a little bit more like inner monologue about, what they're up to and stuff like that. And Castle, Frank, yeah, go ahead.
I like these inner monologues with all these Garth Ennis stories. I think it's the same, how he talks, and I think later on, maybe Barracuda, about being injured and he's bleeding out. And, we've talked about that before, how I like that about these comics. And he does that again here with the monologue, talking about different characters and how he's analyzing things, and it's just a very good again, and I like how it brought me back to those other stories that I read from Garth Ennis, right?
And also very descriptive, and also like you can tell very knowledgeable, and he knows the lingo, like he knows the language of like the time period, and like he knows like there's certain words that he puts in the stories that if you were like, what I mean, that are used during the wars, like even some of the like, I mean, like even in this story, for instance, like, I mean, they're trying to be depicted as it was the guy, they get called a gook, you know what I mean? Like there's some shit.
Yeah.
Like they don't stray away from like shit that was going on, like even like some of the references about certain things, right? Like that's what I mean. Like it's very, he does try to put like a lot of real world type shit in this story, like that. Hence the Max imprint for Marvel Comics. This isn't done in your regular big two stuff that you're going to go to the comic book store that a kid can pick up, right? This is like adult stuff, right? So yeah, basically, Frank believes the Viet Cong are laying the groundwork for NVA offensive, which is North Vietnamese Army, right? That's what NVA is, I believe. And the whole platoon is out making their way through the forest. When one of his men gets sniped, another two get shot up, and they start getting bombarded.
This is the best scene, right? They kind of get ambushed, and all the men are crumbling and they're scared and shit. And you see him, he's like, "Give me the 60." He just grabs the mashi and goes to work. Well,
this is one of my favorite scenes in the whole series, and he does it again later on. But yeah, give me the 60s, like such a sick line, and that's all he does is like you see on the other page here. There's that panel at the bottom where he like the guy's ducking for cover, and he literally grabs it, 60, and he snaps it out, and then he takes down 4 fucking guys from trees. Like he's just like, boom. Like it's crazy, man. Like the way he just goes to town in this scene, like and he knows where everybody is just from the fire that they basically endured in that just prior to this scene, right? So what does he mean, like 60 caliber? Like is that what it is, or what is it?
I think it's an M60. I think this is the type of machine gun.
Yeah, so yeah, he fucking mows them down. Like, look, he's hitting them out of trees. This scene was he drew it. I thought this was really good, really well done.
Yeah, he's just lighting them up with the machine, man.
Look at this one. The guy's just sprayed. There's just like 100 bullets on that scene. Like, just
well, that's why getting up in a tree sounds like a good idea, but it's like really not,
Because you're a sitting duck, right? Yeah, you have like you have the eye line, like you can basically see them coming first. But once you shoot those first shots off, and if they're quick enough and they know where you are as a result.
Yeah, you got Frank Castle with the fucking 60 here,
So yeah, here this is basically when they take down these 4 people, there's somebody that's laying on the ground that we find out.
There's a 16 here. It says the black pig iron in his hands falls silent.
Yeah, and like look at them just standing there. Like you see, got a shot in his arm, doesn't even phase him. He's just sitting there, like gun smoking. Yeah, it's fucking
cool. Fuck around. That's what I get. Punisher's just the man,
And and so basically because of this, what happens here, we see one of the people that's injured down on the ground that's about to kill themselves, and the rest of his men roll up on her and knock her out, and basically, or knock her down, and it's revealed that it's actually a woman. And when they knock her down, and this is a pretty brutal scene, but again, this went down, right?
Yeah.
And she basically, they see that she's a woman, and this guy, what's his name, McDonald, one of his people in his platoon, he takes it upon himself, oh, what are we gonna do now? And they're like, oh well, so he starts undoing his belt. He's like, yeah,
I got an idea. So this is rape, man.
yeah. So yeah, he's got her, and this scene is pretty brutal. Like they do, you don't see the insertion, but like that he's on top of her from behind, raping her in this scene, and forcing the head down and shit, and basically the Goodwin guy, who's basically the narrator. He's turning aside, he's like trying to ignore what's going on. He's up in his head. He's thinking about bullies back in the day from school. Like he's basically trying to focus on anything else than what's going on. He's not down with what's happening. Some of the men seem to be like, well, yeah, waiting their turn. Other men are kind of just looking onwards or having a cigarette. And this guy, no one's stopping him. Frank comes up, sees what's going down, as you see like his boots there, like as he's like kind of like wait your turn, and he doesn't even fucking look up and see that it's Frank. And he fucking shoots her in the head while he's inside of her, and he gets his brains and blood all over his fucking face. Like he just,
yeah, it was pretty sick scene.
Yeah, because at first it looks like he was gonna shoot him, you would think, right? But then he shot her instead, because he's like we don't rape. He just says, or what does he say? Like, he says no rape.
Yeah,
we're here to kill the enemy. That's all. Like that's all he says. Man, a few words, Frank Castle, right? He's like, no rape.
Yeah.
We're here to kill the enemy. That's all. And basically, he put her out of his misery in his mind, right? Put her out of her misery there because of what was happening in that moment, right? So, but yeah, it gets way more interesting after this as well. This next scene as well. This whole scene, like this is probably as brutal as this was of the scenes in this issue. This is probably one of my favorite issues, between him doing the give me the 60 thing and what kind of happens as a result of all.
Yeah.
It is one of one of the more interesting issues, because I think this is where you see like the Punisher kind of for the first time is in this issue. What kind of happens here, right?
So, yeah.
Because later on here, Buddy Goodwin's all fucked up from what he kind of just witnessed, and he goes and he's about to yak his brains out. He's like in the forest, and he sees Buddy there, who got the brain all in his face, that was raping the woman. Go to start washing off his face in the nearby river, right? So he's got his head dunked in the water when Frank comes up from behind, takes his boot on his back of his head and basically forces him into the water and drowns him. Like just strong arms, strong arms him like with his leg there, and basically just pushes him down and suffocates him, right? Drowns. And this guy witnesses the whole thing go down, right? And and Frank, he doesn't look in his direction, doesn't make it known that he knows that he's watching. But later on, he confronts him about this.
That's right. Yeah.
He witnesses this whole thing, and Frank kind of pushes him in the water, and then he says that they kind of to continue the charade, they pretend like they searched for him because they couldn't find him before they went back into the chopper and like kind of like took off or like left their current area and went back to and they played that whole thing. So they're back there, and Buddy's sitting there, drinking. He's all alone, kind of fucked up from the day that occurred. And again, like at this point, I think it's mentioned he's only got like 37 days or something left. Like, so again,
yeah, the countdown's still on. Yeah.
So a couple of days have passed since even from the first issue, and Frank goes up to him and he basically, says, why did you keep quiet?
He says you saw me. Yeah.
Why did you keep quiet about it? Right? And he's just like, he was scared. Like he just says, I was scared. You scared the fuck out of me. Like he's just like, I was scared of what I saw. And they just asked him like, what made you do it? And then there's just like
he says, yeah.
He's like, I wanted to punish him. And he just see this scene right here, and again, so it's just like like he couldn't even deny like that his urge to like he just felt like he needed to die, like essentially, right? He's just like, I need
to let him live,
Yeah. So that's this issue, man. Like Yeah, what'd you think of this scene, man? It was a pretty chilly.
This is
Yeah,
it was a good episode, or a good episode. It was a good issue. It
yeah,
definitely pushed the story forward. Had a couple of really good scenes to give me the 60 and the rape scene. I mean, again, no one likes that or whatever, but it does give depth to the story, and it is that shit does happen, unfortunately, especially wartime, whatever. So it does add depth to the story and characters, and then, like you said, it gives you things like this. I wanted to punish him and character development and stuff. So yeah, really good issue there. Probably again one of the
yeah.
better ones.
Also, because like he also says a little bit here where in his mind, his logic was he had no choice in the matter. Because he said, if I gave up the girl, they would have raped her and then killed her. If whoever I gave
Yeah,
would interrogated her,
yeah, intelligence or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
raped her, and then killed her anyways. So, like in his
yeah,
mind, he was doing the right thing in that sense. And then he said, if I laid out, our sniper in front of everybody, then I would lose the trust in my platoon of the men. So, like, he's not
yeah,
wrong with what he's saying. He's like, either way, if what I did in that situation, he's like, it would have been worse. So, but the guy is in his head, like, after he walks off, he's like, I'm frightened by the fact that that logic in his head is that he thought that was the right thing to do, was to kill these people. Like, he had no other choice in the matter. Right.
yeah. To punish them. Yeah,
Right. Like I get where he's coming from, though. I do. I understand what he's saying, especially in the woman's sake. But this guy is just not ready to hear that, right? Like this guy is,
yeah, yeah.
he's not made for the war you see by the end of this, right? But he had a lot of doubts and about things going on, and he's not alone in that matter. Like you said, like there was a lot of people that were confused as to why they were out there by the end of this war too, right? And as we go into the third issue, basically, I think that's where that starts. Like he starts having those questions about everything, right? So kind of opens up.
The fire.
Yeah. So yeah, this opens up basically, you see bombs going off, getting dropped and everything. And,
Well, that's what I like with the fire, right? The napalm, and then we can't lose in Vietnam. It says here, right? And they did. They just fucking bombed Vietnam to hell.
Well, yeah, he said that either way, a message will be delivered by the end of this war, not to fuck with us. Like that's basically
That's right.
here for it point. Like because, like you said, this is before they pulled out, and but at this point they're just like just
showing the world what they had.
Yeah, he said regardless of what happens due to all like the the death and destruction and casualties, like they're gonna learn not to fuck with us essentially. And this is when Goodwin starts doubting America's place in all of this and why they're out there. And he sees he sees those planes overhead, and Colonel Ottman, he meets with and you see like a bunch of scenes of them taking out a bunch of
they're just doing bombing the fuck out of them, right?
You see them. There's a page I didn't put up here though, but they destroy a bridge. Like they're just destroying like
that's right.
Civilization they got going there. And this is he's talking with Angel and kind of watching over him, and he's kind of like talking to himself about this the war and how he doesn't feel right about everything that's happening right now. And then you get a really interesting scene again with him and Colonel Ottman, who tells Castle not to stir up any more shit. He basically says like, the additional support won't be necessary. They're losing their air coverage. The war is almost over. Keep your head down and we'll be out of here on a fucking plane before you know it. He basically just says like, stop, like just chill out.
Yeah, no more patrols. Yeah, no more nothing.
Yeah, like he really and then like he ends the conversation with basically saying, I'm gonna go take a shit.
Yeah.
He's and drinking again. And like the Punisher is just like, I mean, the Frank is just like, he in his eyes you can just tell like this guy is such a fucking piece of shit. Like he just hates this guy right now because he's like
a bad leader.
Bad leader, not he's preventing me from doing anything now. He's not contributing anything. Like you can tell like he just does not respect this guy anymore. Like, and he comes to him and he's always fucking depressed, like what I mean, like, and he asks for nothing in return. So he's just like, you're useless to me. You could just tell that a lot is told through the art in this scene, like how disappointed he is by the end of this scene. But so again, he seems like he wants to take it into his own hands again as a result of everything here, and he goes to sneak up on him in the shitter. I was there. And he has a moment there where he takes the pin off the grenade and he's going to throw a grenade.
Yeah, he was going to do it.
And he has a moment of hesitation. So I think this scene helps reinforce, because he didn't kill the guy in the first issue, that it kind of helps reinforce what happened there a little bit more, because
he's not just out killing every officer and shit, you know?
Because even this guy that he's lost all respect for in this moment, he is a superior officer in this situation. And he, as much as he doesn't like the guy, like he's like, no, I'm not going to do this. Like he has a moment of weakness here.
Yeah.
Right. Like where he's like, he second guesses himself, and this is where we start to get more inner monologue for Frank, like from Frank in his head now, talking to himself.
Yeah.
Some other maybe thing in his head that's questioning what he's doing, why he's not doing that, what's stopping him, why, you know what I mean? The bloodlust.
Yeah, he's having a conversation with himself or someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is when he talks to Goodwin, and when he mentions he has 37 days left. And because he catches him, which this was a really interesting scene. Like, I like that they depicted this. He mentions how he's easing the springs on his magazines, like as he's sitting there, just kind of biding his time, like fucking around.
Yeah.
But now the worst part about it is Frank actually seems like he's like okay talking to this guy now, because like he's caught him in that act, like killing the guy. So it seems almost like he's not afraid to be himself around him, like whatever's going on in his head right now, like he's able to like confide in him a little bit, it seems like, in this moment. And it's a very, again, this is probably like the last shred of Frank Castle the man that we kind of see in this scene, like questioning what he's going through before he totally is off to the races as the Punisher, I would say, in this moment, right? Would you agree? Like
yeah
right, like
that's right. Yeah, he does kind of very soon, even right here, kind of cross that line, and no return.
Yeah, because he opens up to him and he's like, he mentions that he has a family, and Goodwin basically says like no one knows anything about you. Like he's like, do you know I have a family? He's like, we don't know anything.
That's right.
And he basically mentions that he found out his wife was pregnant again with another one a week after he started his third tour. Which means that, this was about 6 months ago. So, she's almost about to have her second child there, and he's hoping for a boy this time. And if you read The Punisher, you know that he does have a boy. So he has a boy and a girl by the time his family gets killed in Central Park there. And he says he basically says that he thinks that this might be his last chance. Like if he were to go back to his family, kind of to escape all this, like he kind of
to not go down the path,
right.
If he could stop the war, stop the fighting, and go be with his family, it could be his last chance. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because this is kind of like him drawing a line in the sand, and at least like an epiphany of sorts, where he's just like, okay, like I could go like a crossroads. Like I
that's why it's like it's for the Punisher. When his family gets killed, he no longer has that anymore, and then he's able to.
Right.
Which kind of contradicts the end a little bit,
So yeah, we'll get to that. I know that's what I mean. I don't know how I feel about the end 100%. Like it's an interesting idea, I felt like, but I don't even think it was followed up as an idea in the Punisher Max series that Garth Ennis did. So I don't know if that's like maybe what he's trying to say, what like this is why he is the way he is. So we'll get into it, but basically, this is a great scene though. And while this is going down, he sees Angel going to Coltrane's bunker, the guy who sells the heroin there, and the heroin dealer on camp. And he tells Goodwin, and Goodwin runs off to stop him. And this, and then he kind of continues with his inner monologue. You can tell that he's wrestling with his inner thoughts here, and he's almost like trying to put on a show with his comments, almost, or like, you know what I mean, or like the last, like I said, the last like bit of Frank kind of it's gone now. It seems like once he goes back inside of his head after he stops talking to that guy, like he's kind of losing himself again. It seems like in his head, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Just before he sends Buddy off to go get Angel, he says to him though, he goes, "You should reload those magazines." He says, "We took KIA, killed in action for the first time yesterday."
that's
He
right.
goes, "With the rain the way it is, we're completely cut off." Like Frank knows this ambush is coming to the camp, and he knows because it's raining.
That's
You know,
right.
like he fucking yeah, he's just got to jump on everything that's going on when it comes to this war and shit, right?
Yeah. Everything he's
And
predicted and said has been right so far. Like, and that's why I
and
think
then instead of him loading the magazines, he has to go get the heroin guy, right?
that's a good point. I didn't pick up on that. That's good. Yes, you're right. Right. Because at first he's impressed because he's like, none of these guys take any time to do that around here. When he's like talking about like, doing the things with the springs on the mag.
That's right.
Smart. He's like, I do. He's like, none of these other fucking guys take the time to do that around here ever. And he's like, good for you. Like, and that's when he kind of opens up to him for a moment, which was weird. But like, again, like you're not used to seeing that from him. But this is when he still has a family. And this is when he kind of like, he saw that there may have been another way.
Yeah, thinking about home still, and
Yeah. So, but yeah, this scene though, he basically goes and he isn't able to stop him from getting high. He comes there and he's high, and he basically he tells him Angel in this scene like, fuck, like you got 2 days left, like you don't want to go home with a habit. And Angel kind of goes off on him. He basically says, fuck you got things to go back to, I don't. There's a
yeah,
ghetto full of death waiting for me when I go back home in 2 days. Like, he's like, who the fuck cares? Like, you know what I mean? This is just, again, you could tell this is just his escape from all this, like this moment in time. And he's not happy, obviously, with his, what he has to go back to. And then they get into a really interesting conversation again, where he's like, stop being a fucking child about his outlook on life and the war in America. And he's like, you're talking about some shit that's like long lost America, like from the 1920s or something like that. He says like,
well, he says here, it's right here. That's the real America, right? Right there, back when you were shooting each other, raping red Indians, and calling me the N word.
right. That's right. Yeah. He says that. Yeah. And he's like, he said,
Yeah,
he basically calls him delusional. And he's like, stop it with this dream of yours of the ideal
yeah,
America, right? Like, he's like, we're already so far gone. Like, this is,
yeah,
what I mean? Like, and that's what I mean. He's like, stop being a child about this shit. He's like, really, like, grow up. He's like, realize what's going on. Like, and like, you know what I mean? Like, around you.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, so it's interesting. I like that they showed both, like, the junkie in this moment has enough to, like, you know what I mean? Like, to realize that, like, you know what I mean? Like, he actually
yeah.
puts in his place a little bit in this scene, basically,
That's right.
right? Like, you think that, this guy, the helpful friend, is going to come through and judge him and all this shit. You have more to live for and everything else. And he's just like, get out of here with that shit, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I don't.
yeah. No, it's very right. Like, especially, of this time and you know what I mean? Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Like, I get it. Like, it was one of the better scenes I thought in this book. Like, I was just like, yeah, and they showed two different ways of thinking about everything in this moment in time, right? Like, you know what I mean? People coming from different, perspectives.
yeah. Well, the white guy wanting, the good old America and stuff, and yeah, yeah.
So anyways, while they're having this conversation, they end up taking fire. They throw flares
I
up.
love this next scene. I don't know if you have the pic. Yeah, with him at the bottom there, calling for illumination. He's just like loving it, right? It's on. It's game time.
Yeah,
Right.
throw the flares up, and basically this scene's crazy. A shitload of Viet Cong come
Yeah.
up the fucking hill when that flare hits. It's go time now. And like you said, he was just predicting that this was going to occur right before this moment that they had. And so now Angel's all fucked up. Like you just pointed out, which I didn't realize, his magazine, like his gun isn't even properly like
Yeah. They didn't load the extra magazines and stuff ready for an attack.
And this is where Frank, once again, give me the 60.
That's right. Yeah.
And then it was like
Fucking raining and shit, right?
included.
Well, the two little mini boxes, right? They're all just kind of looking like, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? And yeah, then again, right? Just give me the goddamn 60.
Because as soon as the flares hit, you see 100 of them coming up the fucking
Yeah.
like towards them, just like charging in. And they have
Yeah.
a small platoon, maybe like what, 20 people or something like that. I think they
I
referenced
don't know how many would be at the camp, maybe, but yeah, maybe 50 people max, even, you know?
even more. Yeah, maybe I'm underselling it. But the way that they are, the way that they've been,
Still, if you get attacked by like 3, 4, 500 men, I don't know how many men are here.
yeah, it's
If you 50, even if you're 50 guys, it don't matter, you know?
you're fucked. Like, yeah. So this is pretty crazy, but I just love the way they ended it again with like, give me this. Like, it's go time. Like, he's like, all right, let's
Yeah.
do this. Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking murk some guys, man.
Excellent pacing once again. Like, I thought the series was really well paced, right, in that sense. So, all right. So the last issue here. Uh, all right. And again, look at the cover. You go from the cover to the first page where like he's covering the face, like at this point, and then it cuts to
Yeah,
the first page where you see Buddy with his hands in his eyes, blood pouring out of them, like his eye.
that's right.
Just a brutal way to start the issue. The rain's pouring down. They're getting ambushed. Again, just sets the tone right from the get-go. And like you said, like with the very descriptive kind of inner monologues going on of everything else happening in the battle, really, really well done scene. Like I thought this was like a great bit of storytelling here, like to open up the issue this way. But yeah, they're basically, you know, getting hit with heavy fire here. And Frank's platoon, one of the guys come up and he says he can't get a hold of Da Nang. The storm's messing the reception up. And he's basically like pushing for backup or supplies. Basically, they've been in a firefight all night. He references here, like they've just been going at it, and
For hours, yeah.
they don't have men. They don't really have that much men or ammo at this point, right? So he's like, listen, like anything they can spare, just make it happen. And then this guy mentions that Colonel Altman, basically the guy who was checked out, wouldn't let them use the fucking radio. And he kept saying to himself, you know, basically repeating, don't rock the boat. Don't rock the boat. Like so this guy's fucked. Like he's gone. Like he's saying to himself, don't rock the boat. And then later on, you see a scene where the Viet Cong basically bust in there and they end up shooting him, or he ends up shooting himself in the head because they ambushed his quarters.
Yeah.
And he shot the radio up, right? So like again, like they are just mowing through these guys in this scene, right?
Yeah, they're taking the big losses here.
I love this scene though, like with the rain, like the effect of the rain coming down and them all kind of at different corners, like just shooting.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done too. Like there's more pages too. I didn't even put up here, guys, but like you know, the whole battle is really well done. I think the final.
I was very immersed at this point of the story. Like every page, every cell I'm reading and shit. It was very. You didn't know what the hell was gonna happen. You know what I mean? It was very well done.
Doesn't look good for them, right? I mean, and it isn't.
Yeah.
but you know, Angel ends up getting shot in front of Goodwin during this scene because he loses it at a moment, you know, in the battle, and he gets shot. And this is when they start firing cannons on them. They have some sort of cannons on the
an artillery gun. Yeah, they're just kind of, instead of firing it up in the air, they're just firing it down at them, right?
Right. And Frank saves Goodwin from getting sliced up by the heroin dealer guy in the next scene here. But yeah, again, these are all really well done scenes. The lighting on the soldiers kind of running in, like the fire around them and everything else, like the way he blacked out certain people, like in those scenes, all really well done. You know, I think he knew that obviously this was going to be the final issue, and this is probably the best looking out of all the issues, I would say, the way he depicted them.
Yeah.
He really gave it his all, the artist in these scenes. But yeah, he's in like a trench or something. I don't know. He's like behind in like or bunker or something. I don't know. Basically, this guy comes up, the heroin dealer who's all fucked up, I guess, and he goes to slice this guy Goodwin because he says, you know, where's your N-word friend or gay friend or
that's right. Yeah.
And then Frank comes up from behind and shovels them in the fucking head. Takes the shovel, which is also, you know, we've seen them used in Call of Duty games. They were using them as weapons in the trenches, right? Like so.
Oh yeah, we out here, bro. In the trenches.
Yeah, he went and sliced his head open, right? That which is pretty awesome. Saves Goodwin from getting sliced up in that moment. And this is when they start getting the bombs start dropping. It looks like their reinforcements finally came. Some of their men come in at the end of this while there's just a few of them left here. And
that's right. Yeah, they get air support finally.
And Frank says to him basically to did he say to light a flare to let them know that we're here? Or is that
No, I don't think so.
he's no, he does. He says he yells at him.
Oh, Pop Smoke. Yeah, Pop Smoke.
He basically lets him. So he's like, so he's yelling to while the bombs are going off around them or napalm, whatever they're like. He's yelling at him from one side, and he's like in the middle of everything that's going on. He's yelling like, pop some smoke so they know we're here, so we don't get hit. And unfortunately, Goodwin's already in the middle of all this shit. You can see his eyes are blood red here, and he's got like a big gash across his face, and he's just got a huge ass grin on his face because like it looks like he knows, I think, what's happening. But he has one of these moments where he becomes delusional and away, like in his head, I guess, away from what's actually happening. And I liked how they depicted this. They showed him get swooped up.
Yeah.
And I guess he escaped in his head because the whole time he was in his head, especially in these final moments, thinking like, this is how many days I have left. I'm going to get home. Like, Frank's going to get me through this, all this shit. So he goes up in his head and he escapes, I guess, from his current situation of getting killed in this moment. And
he gets bayoneted by a fucking Viet Cong on fire.
Yeah. So
this one hit the feels, But at first I was like, what the fuck? Like it took me a second, right? I had to go back and like look at it again,
I don't think I have the page here, but like after this moment passes, you just see Frank like basically just using the butt end of his rifle, like, and just smashing into the fucking dude, right? And like there's everybody else around him is burning, like all his men are dead essentially in this scene. And this moment where he starts getting in his head again, he basically just says, Frank, I just need to hear the word. He's like, just let me know, like what, like to say. And this panel where he's just like like he's fucking lost it here. Like he again, this is a Punisher moment here. Like blood all over his face, everything, like, just like it looks insane. He says the word yes. And then the next thing you know, you see the reinforce the people that came to save them. Essentially, they're going through all the wreckage and trying to see if there's anybody alive. And of course, everyone's dead. You see all these burning bodies. They're men and the Viet Cong.
Everyone's burning. Fucking dead bodies and fucking sizzling asses all over the rooftop.
And thank God the way they structured this page, they leave that last panel with just a look of shock on like the soldier's face. And then you turn the page and you see Frank just fucking standing there, like looking like half dead, like, himself. Like it's insane, like how bad he looks here. Like, how did this man survive? Like, you know what I mean? Like like half of his leg looks like it's shaved off. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's like
been shot. I love the smoke in the background, right? The Punisher smoke.
Yes, I like that touch too. I know, I caught that. Yeah, that was really cool. But again, it kind of
and his rifle's like fucking broken from him just beating people to death with it.
What a splash page though. What a scene, this one. Yeah, like he's the only man left standing amongst everybody out there, right? And like you said, with that smoke, it really shows you like this is the emergence of the Punisher. Like he's the Punisher now, right? Like it's symbolism, right? So but yeah, man, that's insane. This scene, I really like that. And he says yes to a war that in his mind that will go on forever, like in that moment in time, like he accepts that.
So what, is he making a deal with the devil?
That's what I was going to ask you about. That's what it seems like to me. That was my interpretation of it, because in this scene, this is a good one too. This is where he sees Buddy with a smile on his face.
He sees Goodwin, yeah.
Poor guy.
I know,
he found his escape at the end there, but it's just like he was so close. And because he's the only man standing, Frank's like, all right, war's over, let's go. He gets on the plane. But the men are just like get this guy out of here. He's like, how is this man alive? Like, men alive? There are men alive down there. Remember that's just
that's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Oh my.
Kind of like one of these moments, right? But yes, that was my interpretation of it too, Peter. Like at the end here, you see him, he gets off the plane. It's
he's all banged up.
He's got all the he's been decorated now, like he's a decorated officer, like he has all the what do you call the medals now,
Yeah,
he's come back to the family. Like you see him, his wife and his kids. Now his boy, like both the kids are there in this scene.
that's right.
Come back finally from his like last tour, and he says that to his wife in this moment. He's like, "That's it, I'm done. Like I'm here now. Like I'm done." Because she asks, "Like, are you gonna go back?" And he's like, "No, I'm done out there."
Yeah,
And again, you get this really interesting scene which shows his family kind of in the eye, the target, like in the eye line of the Punisher symbol almost, right?
that's right.
That's what.
Yeah,
And then you get him hugging her at the end as the voice in his head is beginning to start like again.
yeah. To take over.
And basically the voice returns and says, like, "You've been ignoring me." And he's like, "You said yes to my offer and I delivered. You survived 7 bullets and 24 men." Because and that's why I think it's a deal with the devil, because either he made a pact to himself and he's truly insane, which is something that people run with the Punisher, and that's the only way he was driven to make him get himself out of that situation. Or you could think on the side of like he made a deal with the devil in that moment. That is why he survived. And now the devil is basically making him do his bidding for him, because he says, "You're not going to hear from me for a while now. Like I'm going to be
That's right.
way, but you're going to go out there and do what you have to do." Like he kind of sets them on the path right here.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like to think what you said is that this is a devil, but do I love that it's a supernatural kind of twist of an ending, sort of, in a way? I don't know how I feel about that, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I felt the same way. I mean, it's understand. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I do,
It was a tough one.
I
It
do
was a
like,
tough one.
I do like the idea though that the devil would be using him as like a surrogate or like a vessel, like to basically do his bidding. Like it is an interesting concept, but when you have a story like that seemed as grounded as this one was, and then at the end it's like, oh, but it was the devil. Like you're just like, what?
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that one, but it is an interesting thing. And I don't think it's ever been followed up on. I think what the closest would be to the series that's coming out right now, honestly, is because he's working for the Hand. And the Hand actually like are worshiping him like he's basically like a god of war, essentially. Like they look at him as their leader now. And he has some sort of supernatural powers in the current run as a result of his deal with the Hand, let's say. I don't want to spoil too much for you, but that's basically what the Punisher's kind of been dealing with in his current series right now. So yeah, I still really liked this though. This was really, really good, but I don't know how I feel about the supernatural devil twist at the end. I don't know. It's interesting though.
yeah, yeah. Hit or miss with me, you know.
Right. So like again, the emergence of the Punisher, all the Nom stuff, even some of the other character moments, and even their commentary on like stuff that was going on with the war in America and everything else. I thought that was all really well done. Whether or not you want to believe that that's what they were alluding to at the end, I like that they kind of kept it up in the air and they haven't really revisited it though. Like if this became like this is the Punisher.
For me, like the Punisher, yeah, he's a bad guy, kills lots of people, but he's a good guy to me, you know, like he's a fucking army hero. So in this story, he kills a lot of people. They make him look kind of fucking crazy, and then he doesn't deal with the devil. Like, so yes, I like the story, but it's not necessarily the Punisher I love. You know, the version like that, doing a deal with the devil type. I like the avenging, like John Bernathal's. You know, he's just a loving fucking father, special forces guy that gets done wrong, and he's got to go kill some people. But
I think I do like no, I agree with you. That's why he's technically an anti-hero, like as they've always said for the comics, because he does stuff that other heroes won't he's killing people essentially, right? But he's doing it for the right reasons always, like in his mind. So like I have liked that, like that's my interpretation of the character too, and that's why I don't really have a problem with it. For some people I don't think that works, but that's why I've liked some writers have approached it like he is a fucking maniac and a killing machine, and he is crazy, and he's I mean, it's, you can't deny he's damaged, like the guy has, like he is like,
oh, definitely, yeah.
but and even the Bernenthal one had moments where
Oh yeah, he's fucked. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
yeah.
But I think like he's killing horrible people, like in the Punisher Max series that Garth Ennis does. The things he explores in that, and you might have even the hardcover that does. There's one that deals with like sex trafficking, and
That's right. That's the Barracuda one, isn't it?
I think
Maybe.
I think it might be. It might be. He shows up in one of those stories, but like really like horrible things that no one would ever fucking wish for these people to survive. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what justifies his acts in a way. But then, like I said, there's always that gray line. There's always that line you're kind of walking in that sense, and that's why the perspective of heroes showing up and actually saying like, I can't endorse what you're doing out there has always been a nice pair. Like even the Daredevil scene that he did with him and Punisher in the show, that was Garth Ennis wrote that scene. One of the best scenes. Yeah, because he did that in his main. I think he does that. He does that in Welcome Back, Frank, the one you have.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
I
Yes.
stand up to the gun, and he's like, "Listen, if you're gonna want to stop me, you're gonna have to shoot him." Like he's like, "It's up to you. What do you want to do?" Right? He's like, "Yeah. If you want to stop me from doing this, you're gonna have to pull the trigger. Like you have no choice, right?" And he does it to illustrate this is what the choice that I have to make that goes on in my head every time I have to do this shit. And you think I'm just out here senselessly killing people? He's like, no, I have to. It has to justify the reason. The reasons have to be justified why I'm killing these people. And I don't think that's ever been illustrated as well as he did in that moment, because I was like, yes, that's the character. He gets him. Like he's able to do this because of that reason. Like he holds himself to crazy standards as well. Like, but the other people, because they know he's damaged, they think he's just crazy and he's just off killing people because he needs to do it. And that's kind of what's depicted a little bit in this. Like he is bloodthirsty towards the end, and he is kind of
he loves war. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I mean. That's always depending on the writers that have written him over time. They've kind of went with different directions with like what they think of the Punisher. But I love it all. Like I love most. The only thing I don't love sometimes is when he's too seeped into the Marvel universe, and you know what I mean. Like when he's like. I like him seeing going up against the heroes and stuff like that and the villains sometimes, but like I do like a lot of the more serious tone. Like Punisher Max is my favorite, the Punisher Max line, because I like the more like him in the real world type of shit. Like
100%. Like I don't want to see him fighting Thanos and shit. Nor do I even think he has too much to offer in those scenarios. You know what I mean?
Right. But I will say the stories that I have read where he has been stuck in those scenarios where you're like, this guy's just a man. How is he going to stop the superheroes? They always come up with really interesting, creative ways, like a Batman type of thing where you're like,
that's right.
Right. So I like that stuff in small doses. Like I don't like long series of him in the Marvel universe, but I do like it time to time to remind you.
I mean, if Spider-Man comes around and asks for help, I don't know. I haven't had too much experience reading stories with Punisher fucking around with Iron Man and shit like that, you know? More so been Daredevil and Spider-Man, you know, for the stories that I've read. So that's good. I don't mind that. You know, they're all like lower level, dealing with Kingpin, you know, drug guys and those, you know, lower level criminals, and not so much fucking like intergalactic villains, you know?
Right. What you're mentioning is street level heroes. That's
that's right.
Hell's Kitchen, like that's why Daredevil, Spider-Man, like you say, Kingpin, Moon Knight, like these are guys that can tangle with the Punisher and that often show up in his comics. Even Black Widow, you know, Cap, to a smaller, like, you know, Cap does go with all the like space shit as well, but he's part of the Avengers, right? But like Cap, again, they always kind of take the perspective like he's a military man with Punisher. Like that's always like how he looks at him, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Even in this story, P, that the War Machine one, this is off the fallout of War Machine. He ends up getting killed prior to this series, so that's why the War Machine armor is available to him. He gets killed in some event in the Marvel universe. They don't really go into it all too much in this, so that's why I wanted to mention it. And the interesting thing about that is he also sided with Captain America because the event at that time was the one where it turned out Captain America was Hydra, like a Nazi. And Frank had so much trust in Captain America, he actually enlists the Punisher during that event to help him out. But then he turns out that he's a fucking Nazi and that he was working for Hydra. And it's like a whole convoluted story. Like I don't want to spoil that for you, but that's where he's coming from, like mindset in this series, is that he just got even betrayed by like the only person,
Captain America.
Only person he trusts like in this world, it was him, like in terms of like the heroes and stuff like that. And he got enlisted to help him, not knowing that he was an actual like Hydra member in this series. So like his head's all kind of fucked up as a result of that in this series too, right? So yeah, it's really interesting. There is some good stuff when it comes to the Marvel Universe stuff with him too, but I prefer the Max stuff personally, just because it kind of,
Yeah, for sure.
as crazy as the violence and everything is, it does feel real world, like he's dealing with real horrible people that exist, right?
Yeah, mob bosses and yakuza, whatever, right? Human traffickers,
Yeah,
drug cartels. Like that one where he's in LA, like that was a different take on it. He's in LA, he's fucking around with the Mexican cartels. That was a cool take on the Punisher, you know?
yes, yeah. No, that's what I mean. That
Because
kind of,
it's not New York, right? Like New York's cool and mob bosses and stuff, that's all good. But yeah, to have him on the West Coast fucking with the cartels, that was cool too, right?
yeah, absolutely. So there you go, guys. That's yeah, nice lengthy conversation about all things Punisher there for you guys. And yeah, I'm glad you liked it, P. And hopefully, yeah, we can do this War Machine one when I lend you the paperbacks. Let's definitely get back together and talk about this if you're interested, if you like it enough to
Yeah,
talk.
I'll grab those tomorrow if I end up at work, which I should. So yeah, perfect. Maybe next week we'll try to keep the good times rolling. Keep
Nice.
the strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, no, I'm liking it, man. It's good. It's good to have this conversation. So, yeah, so guys, check it out. We have a whole playlist of Trade Talk episodes here. Peter, like I said, has been on a couple of them. I brought it back as a result of us wanting to talk about certain books we've both read, as Peter has gotten more into comic book side of things recently. You can also see Peter over on Cracking Packs with the Chat, another show that we've had here on the Late Night Collectors community. And also on our sister channel there, Late Night Chat Network. There's been a bunch of episodes.
Yeah, me and Rob, I think we're hoping to do a video soon of the new NHL Series 2 coming out. We got a couple retail variations of the products and stuff. So yeah, you might see us soon on that.
Yeah, he had mentioned
Maybe another one of these.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so you can always catch us there, and all kinds of episodes in the playlist as well there too. For Trade Talk, I previously did it solo. I had just it was more just audio of me talking about a bunch of things I read week to week. But there's a bunch of those in the playlist as well too. But yeah, it's been nice to kind of do these again. And like I said, Ninja Turtles, Punisher, things that you're interested in, let me know. I'm always happy to talk about them and revisit stuff.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Peter.